My fiancée said, "My friends think I'm wasting my youth with one guy, that I should explore my options." I said, "Okay, let's do it." Then I walked over to her best friend at the party, the one who said it, and asked her out. The chaos that erupted when she said yes. So I guess I'm now the guy with that story everyone wants to hear at parties. Fair warning, this is a wild ride from start to finish. I'm 30, was engaged to Becca, 27. Been together since she was 23, so 4 years total. We met at a friend's barbecue, typical meet cute stuff. She was funny, smart, gorgeous, the whole package. I fell hard and fast, and for a while it seemed like she did too. We moved in together after a year, splitting the rent on a decent 2-bedroom apartment near downtown. About 8 months ago I proposed. Big romantic gesture, the works. I used my grandmother's diamond in a new setting I'd designed, keeping the family history while making it modern. She said yes, tears in her eyes. We celebrated, called our families. Life was good. Started planning for next spring, nothing crazy expensive, but nice enough. Her parents were covering most of the wedding costs, thank God, because that's one financial bullet I apparently dodged. Things started changing around 3 months ago. Becca's friend group has always been interesting. Mainly single girls in their mid to late 20s who go out clubbing multiple times a week. The ringleader is Vanessa, who's never had a relationship last longer than the milk in my fridge. Becca always hung out with them occasionally, which was fine. I'm not the controlling type who needs to know where my fiancé is 24/7. But the frequency started increasing. First it was once a week, then twice, then every weekend she was out until 3 to 4 a.m. with the girls. Started dressing differently too, more revealing clothes that she never wore when we went out together. I tried to talk to her about it once, just said I missed spending weekends together. She accused me of trying to isolate her from her friends and gave me the cold shoulder for days. A month ago I noticed she was being weird with her phone. You know the signs, suddenly having a passcode, turning it face down, taking it to the bathroom. Classic sketchy behavior. I'm not proud of this, but one night while she was showering, I checked her messages. Nothing overtly incriminating, but lots of texts from Vanessa saying things like, "He doesn't need to know everything. And what happens at the club stays at the club." I didn't confront her right away, wanted to see if she'd come clean on her own. Instead, she started picking fights over the stupidest things. The way I loaded the dishwasher, how I apparently breathe too loudly when I sleep. Real relationship-ending stuff, clearly. Fast forward to last weekend. Vanessa was hosting a party at her place. Her roommate Lisa was getting married next month, and this was a casual pre-bachelorette gathering before the official one. Becca insisted I come along, which surprised me since lately she'd been keeping her girl time and us time very separate. We get there, and I immediately feel out of place. I'm the only guy with a serious relationship. Most of the dudes there were the type who flex in every mirror they pass and use terms like body count unironically. I'm hanging by the snack table wondering how many chips I need to eat to justify leaving early when I overhear Vanessa, Becca, and 2 other girls in the kitchen. Didn't mean to eavesdrop, but Vanessa's voice carries when she's had a few drinks. "Becca, seriously, I don't get why you're settling down at 27. You've only been with what, 3 guys? That's nothing, you're wasting your youth with one guy." I waited for Becca to defend our relationship. Instead, I heard, "I know, I've been thinking the same thing lately. Sometimes I wonder what else is out there, you know? What if Mark is just comfortable, not actually right?" Vanessa again, "Exactly, you should be exploring your options. Tons of guys would kill to be with you. You're hot, you're fun. Don't throw that away yet." Another voice, "What are you going to do?" Long pause from Becca. "I don't know. I care about Mark, but I'm not sure I want to close that door on other experiences forever, you know? I should have been devastated. Instead, I felt this weird sense of calm, like finally having confirmation of something you've suspected for months. I walked into the kitchen, and all 4 of them froze like teenagers caught smoking. "Mark, how long have you been standing there?" Becca's face had that deer-in-headlights look. "Long enough," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. "So you think you're wasting your youth with one guy? That you should explore your options?" I didn't mean. Vanessa was just I cut her off. No, actually, I think Vanessa's right. All four of them stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You should explore your options. In fact, we both should. Why limit ourselves, right? Becca's mouth opened and closed a few times. What are you saying? I'm saying, okay, let's do it. Let's explore other options. And then, running entirely on autopilot and probably the 3 beers I'd had, I turned to Vanessa. Vanessa, since you think Becca should be exploring her options, I assume that applies to me too. Would you like to go out sometime? The silence that followed was so complete, you could have heard a mouse fart. Vanessa's eyes darted between me and Becca, who looked like she was watching her house burn down. Then Vanessa, who I've never particularly liked but have to respect for sheer audacity, smiled and said, "Actually, yeah, I would." Chaos erupted immediately. Becca lunged toward Vanessa, screaming something about betrayal and girl code. 2 other girls pulled her back. I just stood there, feeling weirdly disconnected from the whole scene, like I was watching it on TV. "Are you serious right now?" Becca screamed at me. "You're asking out my best friend, right in front of me?" "You literally just said you want to explore other options," I pointed out. "I'm just taking your suggestion. Isn't that what you wanted? Freedom to see other people?" "I didn't mean with my best friend." Vanessa, looking surprisingly unbothered by the hurricane she'd helped create, just shrugged. "You said you were having doubts. Why can't he?" The party essentially imploded after that. Becca stormed out with 2 of her friends trailing behind. I stayed about 15 more minutes, finished my beer, thanked Lisa, the bride-to-be, for having me, and left. When I got home, Becca was already there, furiously packing a bag. "I'm staying at Megan's tonight. We'll talk tomorrow when you're sober and thinking clearly." She wouldn't look at me. "I'm perfectly sober and clear," I told her. "You said you wanted to explore options and I agreed. Why are you upset?" "Because normal people don't immediately hit on their fiancé's best friend." She threw a shirt into her bag with unnecessary force. "Normal fiancés don't tell their friends they're having doubts about the relationship without talking to their partner first." That shut her up momentarily. Then in a quieter voice, "It wasn't like that. Vanessa was putting ideas in my head. I was just entertaining the thought." "Well, I'm just entertaining the thought of dating Vanessa, or anyone else who doesn't think commitment is a waste of youth." She left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. I slept surprisingly well that night. The next day my phone blew up. Texts from Becca alternating between apologizing and accusing me of humiliating her. Messages from mutual friends asking what happened. And surprisingly, a text from Vanessa. "Dinner this Friday?" Or was that just to make a point? I didn't respond to any of them immediately. Needed to think. After a day of silence, Becca showed up at our place. "We need to talk," she said, eyes red from crying. I nodded and let her in. "I'm sorry," she began. "What I said was stupid. I don't want to explore options. I want you." "Only because I called your bluff," I pointed out. "If I'd begged you to reconsider, you'd have seen it as proof I'm not exciting enough." She denied it, but her face told me I was right. "What's really going on, Becca? You've been pulling away for months." She broke down then. Admitted Vanessa and the others had been making her feel insecure about settling down so young. Said they constantly talked about all the experiences she was missing. The guys, the freedom, the drama. "Did you cheat?" I asked directly. "No, I swear. I danced with some guys at clubs, but that's it." "Would it have stayed that way if I hadn't overheard you yesterday?" She didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. I told her I needed time to think. She didn't like that, but didn't have much choice. She left, promising to prove she was committed. Later that day, I did something either incredibly stupid or brilliant, depending on how you look at it. I texted Vanessa back. "Friday works? 7 p.m. at Castello's?" She responded immediately, "It's a date." Was I actually interested in Vanessa? Not really. She's attractive enough, but I've always found her exhausting in large doses. But something about the sheer chaotic potential of the situation appealed to me. Plus, I figured it was the fastest way to figure out if Becca was genuinely committed or just afraid of losing her safety net. I didn't tell Becca about the date. Figured Vanessa would do that for me. I was right. Tuesday evening, Becca called me, practically hyperventilating. "Tell me Vanessa is lying. Tell me you're not actually going on a date with her on Friday." I am, actually. Why? To punish me? No, to explore my options. Isn't that what you wanted us to do? I told you I was sorry. I don't want to see other people. Great, then don't. But I think I will, at least for now. She hung up on me. 10 minutes later, I got a novel-length text about how I was trying to hurt her, how Vanessa was using me to get at her, how real men forgive mistakes, etc. I didn't respond. Wednesday and Thursday passed in a blur of messages from Becca, ranging from rage to bargaining to desperate declarations of love. Friday arrived. I got ready for my date with Vanessa, half expecting Becca to show up and make a scene. She didn't. I met Vanessa at the restaurant, an upscale Italian place that Becca and I had been to a few times. Vanessa showed up looking like she was auditioning for a role as woman trying to make ex jealous. Tight dress, full makeup, the works. We got a table and ordered drinks. So, she said, leaning forward slightly, I have to know, are you doing this just to mess with Becca, or are you actually interested? I decided honesty was the best approach. Bit of both. I'm curious what Becca sees in you that makes her question our entire relationship. Vanessa laughed. Fair enough. For what it's worth, I didn't expect you to actually ask me out. That took balls. And I didn't expect you to say yes. That took something. Let's call it spontaneity, she grinned. Something Becca says you lack, by the way. That stung, but I kept my face neutral. What else does she say about me? Vanessa took a sip of her wine. You really want to know? Absolutely. She says you're reliable, safe, a good guy who'll make a good husband and father. Those sound like compliments. To someone in their 40s, sure. To girls our age, boring as hell. Vanessa shrugged. I've been telling her for months she needs more excitement before settling down. She finally started listening. I nodded slowly. And do you actually believe that? Or do you just not want to be the only single one in your friend group? Her eyes narrowed slightly. Little of both, probably, but I do think people should live before they settle down. And you define living as experiences. Different people, different relationships. How do you know what you want if you've barely sampled what's out there? We debated this through appetizers and main courses. I had to admit, Vanessa was smarter than I'd given her credit for. Still wrong, in my opinion, but articulate about it. Halfway through dinner, the universe decided things weren't chaotic enough. In walked Becca, alone, clearly having tracked us down. She spotted us immediately, fixed her face into something resembling composure and walked directly to our table. Fancy seeing you two here, she said, voice dripping with forced casualness. Becca, Vanessa nodded. Didn't expect to see you tonight. Clearly. Becca's eyes were shooting daggers. Mind if I join you? Before either of us could respond, she pulled up a chair from a nearby empty table and sat down. So how's the date going? Getting to know each other better? Her smile wouldn't have fooled a blind man. I decided to match her energy. Actually, yes, Vanessa was just explaining why she thinks people should date around before committing. It's fascinating. Becca's face flushed. I bet. And what's your take on that, Mark? I think people should know what they want and be honest about it. If someone wants to explore options, they shouldn't string along a partner who thinks they're building a future together. Vanessa watched this exchange like a tennis match, looking more amused than uncomfortable. I told you I was sorry, Becca hissed. I made a mistake. People are allowed to make mistakes. Absolutely, I agreed. And I'm allowed to reconsider a relationship with someone who sees our engagement as limiting rather than fulfilling. Becca's eyes welled up. Before she could respond, Vanessa chimed in. Not to interrupt this touching reunion, but just so we're all clear, is this date actually going anywhere or am I just a prop in whatever game you two are playing? I looked at her. Honestly, I don't know. I think you're interesting, but I'm not sure we want the same things. Vanessa laughed. At least you're honest, unlike some people. She glanced at Becca. What's that supposed to mean? Becca demanded. It means you've been complaining about feeling trapped for months, but the second Mark shows interest in someone else, suddenly he's the love of your life again. It's transparent and pathetic. I expected Becca to explode. Instead, she deflated like a punctured balloon. Is that really what you think of me? She asked Vanessa quietly. I think you're scared of missing out and scared of being alone, so you want to keep Mark on standby while you decide if something better might come along. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, I spoke. Is she right, Becca? Becca stared at the tablecloth. I don't know. Maybe. She looked up at me. I love you. I do. But sometimes I wonder if we're too young to be this serious. Vanessa and the others, they make it sound like I'm missing out on something important. I nodded slowly. Then I think we both have our answer. What does that mean? Alarm flashed across her face. It means I'm not interested in being anyone's safety net. I want someone who's as sure about me as I am about them. The waiter approached, took one look at our table, and wisely retreated. So that's it? 4 years over because of one comment? Becca's voice cracked. No, 4 years over because you're not ready for what I want. I turned to Vanessa. And I don't think you're looking for anything serious either. Which means this date probably isn't going anywhere. Vanessa smiled ruefully. Probably not, though I have to say, this is already the most entertaining first date I've ever been on. Despite everything, I laughed. Even Becca cracked a small, sad smile. The rest of the evening was surreal. The three of us actually finished dinner together, talking through what had happened with surprising civility. Becca admitted she'd been influenced by her friend's constant talk about being too young to settle down. Vanessa admitted she sometimes encouraged drama because it was entertaining. I admitted I'd asked Vanessa out partly to prove a point. By the end, we'd reached a strange sort of clarity. Becca and I agreed to officially end our engagement. She'd move out over the weekend. Vanessa and I decided not to pursue anything romantic. Once the initial thrill of chaos wore off, we realized we'd drive each other crazy. And most surprisingly, Becca and Vanessa's friendship seemed salvageable, albeit changed. The weekend was somber but not hostile. Becca packed her things while I helped carry boxes to her car. Before she left, she handed me back the engagement ring. I'm sorry it ended like this, she said. I think maybe you're right, I'm not ready. I nodded. Better to realize now than after the wedding. For what it's worth, I really do love you. I know, just not enough to choose me without doubts. She couldn't argue with that. With one last hug, she left. The aftermath was predictably messy. Our families were confused and disappointed. Friends took sides. Social media became a minefield. The most surprising development came 2 weeks later. Vanessa texted me. Drink sometime? As friends, I think we both could use one after Hurricane Becca. We met at a low-key bar. No romantic vibes, just two people who'd survived a bizarre shared experience. How's she doing? I asked. Dramatic. Claims she made the biggest mistake of her life 1 minute, then talks about downloading dating apps the next. Classic Becca. Vanessa shrugged. How about you? Better than expected. Turns out it's easier to get over someone when you realize they weren't as committed as you thought. Vanessa nodded. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing, and I'm sorry for my part in it all. Are you? Sorry, I mean. She thought about it. Yes and no. I think Becca really wasn't ready to settle down, so maybe it's better you found out now. But I could have been less enthusiastic about pointing it out. We talked for hours that night. Not about Becca, but about life, relationships, what we wanted. Turns out, beneath her party girl exterior, Vanessa was dealing with her own fears about the future. Her approach was the opposite of Becca's. Instead of committing too early, she avoided commitment entirely. We started hanging out occasionally, just as friends, despite what Becca and others assumed. About a month after the breakup, Vanessa invited me to her brother Tony's housewarming party. There I met Ellie, a longtime friend of Tony's. Ellie and I hit it off immediately. We exchanged numbers that night and had our first date the following week. That was about 3 months ago now. Ellie and I have been dating steadily since then, and it's been incredible. The irony? Ellie is actually younger than Becca, by a year, but has never once made me feel like I'm holding her back or limiting her options. She knows what she wants and isn't afraid to choose it. As for Becca, last I heard she's dating one of those mirror-flexing guys from Vanessa's party. Vanessa says she's living her best life, whatever that means. I wish her well, genuinely. Hope she figures out what she really wants. I kept my grandmother's diamond when Becca returned the ring, but sold the setting. Made enough to fund a solo trip to Europe, something I'd always wanted to do, but Becca had been lukewarm about. Just got back last week. Had an amazing time. Occasionally, I look back on that night at the party and marvel at how one overheard conversation changed everything. If I hadn't walked into that kitchen at that exact moment, who knows? I might be planning a wedding right now with someone who saw me as the safe option, the fallback plan. Instead, I'm dating someone who chooses me enthusiastically every day, with no FOMO, no hesitation. So here's my advice. If your partner tells you they're wasting their youth with you, believe them. Not because it's true, but because someone who thinks that way isn't ready for what you're offering. And if their best friend suggests they need to explore options, well, sometimes the quickest way to resolve a situation is to take people at their word, even if it creates a little chaos in the process. Update. Wow, this blew up overnight. Thanks for all the comments and support. To answer some common questions. 1. No, I didn't sleep with Vanessa. We genuinely just became friends after everything went down. Sometimes the most unexpected connections come from messy situations. 2. Yes, Becca has tried to reconcile a few times, usually after a few drinks or when things aren't going well with whoever she's seeing. I've been firm about not going backward. 3. Ellie knows the whole story. She actually thinks it's hilarious that Vanessa and I are friends now. She and Vanessa get along surprisingly well. 4. Several people have asked if I regret asking Vanessa out that night or if I think it was immature. Honestly, in the moment, it wasn't some calculated move. It was pure impulse driven by hurt and a desire to make a point. Was it the most mature response? Probably not. Do I regret it? No, because it fast-tracked us to a necessary conclusion. The most unexpected outcome of this whole saga is how it's changed my perspective on relationships. Before, I thought commitment was mainly about loyalty and time invested. Now I realize it's more about enthusiastic choice. Choosing each other actively, not just staying together because it's comfortable or expected. Becca wasn't a villain. She was just someone who wasn't ready for the future I wanted, but was afraid to admit it. Our relationship probably would have dragged on for years, with her feeling increasingly trapped and me increasingly insecure if things hadn't come to a head that night. As for Vanessa, she's still very much herself, goes out constantly, dates casually, lives for drama. But our friendship has shown me a different side of her. She's fiercely loyal to people she respects, brutally honest, sometimes to a fault, and surprisingly insightful about human nature. She and Ellie have this weird mutual admiration thing going on. Ellie appreciates Vanessa's boldness, and Vanessa respects Ellie's confidence in what she wants. Life is strange sometimes. If you'd told me 4 months ago that I'd be happily dating someone new, friends with my ex-fiancé's best friend, and actually grateful for an overheard conversation that blew up my engagement, I'd have thought you were crazy. Yet, here we are. And honestly, I've never been happier. Update 2, 3 months later. Things have taken another unexpected turn, and since so many people asked for an update, here it is. Ellie and I are still going strong. Actually moved in together last month. She's everything I wanted in a partner. Direct, honest, and fully invested. No doubts, no wondering if the grass is greener elsewhere. Vanessa is still in our lives, still causing her usual brand of chaos, but now mainly in other people's lives, not ours. She started her own event planning business and is surprisingly good at it. Turns out her talent for drama translates well to creating memorable parties. The real update is about Becca. About 2 weeks ago, she showed up at my door unannounced. Hadn't heard from her in weeks, so this was unexpected. She looked rough, not physically, but emotionally drained. "Can we talk?" she asked. No dramatic entrance, no tears, just quiet determination. I let her in, texted Ellie to give her a heads up. We have a full transparency policy about exes, and waited to hear what was so important. "I owe you an apology," she began. A real one, not the reactive ones I gave when I was just scared of losing you. She'd been in therapy for a few months, she explained. Working through her issues with commitment, her need for external validation, why she let her friends influence her so much. I realized I never knew what I wanted. I just wanted what other people told me I should want. When I was with you, my single friends made me feel like I was missing out. Now that I'm single, my coupled-up friends make me feel like I'm falling behind. She wasn't there to try to get back together. She understood too much had happened. She just wanted me to know she finally understood why our relationship had to end. You deserved someone who chose you completely, not someone who saw you as a limiting factor in their life. I'm sorry I couldn't be that person then. It was probably the most mature conversation we ever had. I told her I appreciated her coming by and that I wished her well in figuring out what she truly wanted. As she was leaving, she paused. For what it's worth, that night at the party, when you asked Vanessa out, part of me was impressed. Even through the hurt and shock, it was the first time you'd ever completely surprised me. I laughed. Surprised myself too, honestly. She smiled sadly. Ellie's lucky. She's getting the version of you that knows his own worth. After she left, I sat thinking about how strange life is. How one moment of standing up for yourself can alter your entire trajectory. If I just swallowed my hurt that night, tried to convince Becca she was wrong, begged her to reconsider, we might still be together, building a life on a shaky foundation of her doubt and my insecurity. Instead, that one impulsive decision to ask Vanessa out, probably the most out-of-character thing I've ever done, led to the unraveling of a relationship that needed to end, an unexpected friendship, and eventually finding someone who makes me feel chosen every day. The moral of this weird story? Sometimes the right decision doesn't feel dignified or mature in the moment. Sometimes it's messy and impulsive and creates temporary chaos. But if it leads you toward authenticity and away from half-hearted commitment, it's the right decision anyway. Life update. Ellie and I are talking about the future, not rushing, but not afraid of commitment either. Vanessa is currently dating a guy who actually seems to be keeping up with her, a minor miracle. And Becca, according to mutual friends, is taking time to be properly single, not dating for validation, just figuring herself out. As for me, I'm thankful for that conversation I overheard, for the moment of boldness it sparked, and for everything that followed. Sometimes the best thing that can happen is for someone to tell you you're not enough. It gives you the chance to prove them wrong by finding someone who thinks you're everything. That's my story. Thanks for coming along for the ride.